Chapter 10. Some Reflections on the Creator. In Chapter 2, we looked at matter with a big microscope. The more we looked, the more we enlarged, and the less we found. We ended up with a void, permeated by pulsating energy fields. Even the most solid matter, the one that imparts most of its mass to it, the nucleus of the atom, which at first appeared as a solid grain of matter, upon a better look dissolved into a vortex of pulsating fields. Thus, we found a void to be the common denominator of all matter, its ground substance, so to speak. We human beings consider ourselves to be made up of solid matter. However, by now we know that we are just an interference pattern of waves that is changing with time. Or, in other words, we are a four-dimensional hologram. The base for the hologram is the void that permeates and connects all creation. We have heard of this void before. This is how we have described the Absolute. As we look at the pulsating energy fields, we ask ourselves, what would happen if we should slow down the pulsation of the energy fields or stop their pulsation altogether? The answer is that we would get back our void or the Absolute. It is as though the wind that has raised the ripples over the face of the sea of the Absolute has stopped blowing. Calm has set in, and the face of the sea is smooth again. There is no motion, therefore no time and no matter. The Absolute is there, undisturbed. Remember that this Absolute is pure consciousness combined with intelligence, as we mentioned in Chapter 5. We can now see that in order to reestablish manifest creation, we have to be able to somehow to rattle or vibrate the surface of the Absolute. That's no simple task, and we would not even know how to begin, but that is, of course, what creators are for. You may recall that the ripples on the surface of the sea, of the Absolute, in the fine relatives, such as figure 33a, are so small and of such a high frequency as to become invisible. The Absolute is both in a state of rest and at the same time of enormous potential energy. Similarly, we have seen how infinite velocity has become a state of rest, how the birth of matter occurs simultaneously and in the same place as its death. Creation and destruction are simultaneous. Degeneration carries renewal in its core. We know that at the end of time is the beginning. In short, we find that there is a level in nature at which all extremes become reconciled and merged. It is on this level that black and white, good and evil, merges into isness. This is also where the ultimate truth lies. The truth is not black or white, it's both. The pairs of opposites of the lower level merge on the highest level. We tend to view nature through the tiny slot from a narrow angle. Others see it from another angle and describe it as different language. It sounds different, but it's not. The universe is so rich in diversity that almost anything one says about it is correct, provided one takes a broad enough view. We have tried our hands before at designing nature spirits. Let us see now whether we can follow the actions of the creator of the universe. We shall try to peek over his shoulder while he works. The scenario would run something like this. In the tremendous, boundless, infinite, dark void, something stirs. A very great volume of the void has decided to move and is defining its boundaries. This enormous consciousness or intelligence is separating itself from the continuum so that it can start acting, and has thus become an individualized entity. It contains tremendous amounts of potential energy. It is the state of rest of the pendulum. Now, the creator has to settle down and start to draw up plans of what to do within his real estate, which is his body. He sits back in his cosmic armchair and contemplates. He realizes that unless he can produce a consciousness equal to himself in all qualities, he may never know what he himself is all about. So he sets out to decide on the rules of the game. That is, the laws of nature as we know them. He invests the laws of evolution. Evolution will refine consciousness to a point at which it will resemble him in all his attributes. He will start with matter on the low consciousness, make it more and more complex, and watch the emergence of the first intelligence that can contemplate itself. This would mirror one of his basic attributes and would be quite a milestone in his development. Let us not forget that all these processes are occurring inside him, in his subjective time. He will have to invent the most diverse creatures, the most diverse situations, and the most diverse events, then have his creatures go through all these possible situations and interact all the possible ways. When all his different being will have gone through all the possible situation and interact with all the possible ways, then he will know what he is capable of. He will then know himself. He uses the duality